Ok, o guia completo para o pré-lançamento do Homem-Aranha. Eu vou-vos já dizer que aposto que o professor vai mandar vir com o deck, com o set, ok? Pai, umas 20 vezes durante este vídeo todo. E vai dizer várias vezes, eu não tenho nada contra Universes Beyond, mas...
Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, is it worth it to attend a pre-release event? The answer has always been yes, absolutely it is worth it. Pre-release is the best way to experience a new Magic the Gathering set, and Magic the Gathering's newest set, Spider-Man, is no exception. Whether you're an established player who loves playing with new cards, or you're a Spider-Man fan who wants to check out what this whole Magic the Gathering thing is all about, pre-release is the event for you. If you can attend a pre-release at your local game store, I highly encourage you to do so. Pre-release events are a form of sealed tournament in which you receive a pre-release kit containing 6 sealed packs of the newest set as well as 1 promo card. Using this kit and as many basic lands from your local game store's basic land station as you'd like, you'll build a deck of 40 cards to battle against other players who also build decks out of their pre-release kits. In this video, I'll cover everything you need to know to build the best sealed deck you can out of your Spider-Man pre-release pool. I'll cover everything from the set's mechanics, archetypes, and key cards that you should keep an eye out for when cracking your packs. Now, this video will assume that you are already familiar with the basics, but don't fear, because if you've never attended a pre-release event before, or it's been a while since your last one, you can always check out our video explaining how to build a sealed deck for brand new players. A great video for if you're bringing your friend along to your pre-release. That video will lay out everything you need to know if you're starting from absolute scratch or it's just been a long while this video will cover everything specific to Spider-Man the set. Either way, we've got a lot of information to cover today, so let's get started.
Okay.
And remember, as we head into these events, be they pre-release, Friday Night Magic, or even just casual Commander Thursdays, many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, why can't I have a high-paying job playing Magic the Gathering? Well, maybe you could if you learned how to code instead of just learning how banding works. In fact, learning the code is probably easier than learning how banding works, and now it's even easier with boot.dev, who turns learning...
Oh, professor, por amor de Deus.
A set's mechanics are the skeleton of any limited environment, and Spider-Man is no exception. There are 2 brand new mechanics in this set, though savvy players might notice similarities between both of these mechanics and a couple of fan-favorite past mechanics. There are also 2 main returning mechanics. In this next section, I'm going to go over all 4 of these mechanics and explain how to make the most of them at your pre-release event. Let's begin with web slinging. Web slinging is the signature ability of the many Spider-Man variants and the marquee mechanic of the set. Web slinging is...
You may cast this spell for plane if you also return a tapped creature you control to its owner's end. É assim que funciona? Bro, que estranho.
Is an alternative casting cost that requires you to return a tapped creature to your hand in addition to paying the listed cost.
E se isso for com tokens? É que isto resulta bem index de tokens. Criarem spiders, devolvem os tokens para a mão, desaparecem.
Web slinging is usually cheaper than paying the regular casting cost, and is a great way to both get a discount on your spider guy and re-trigger any enters the battlefield effects you may have. Web slinging is specifically associated...
Sim, o token morre, mas imagina, é um token. Se forem tokens 1-1, ficas sem um token e dás cast com um custo muito mínimo. Acho que compensa para dar, se for um custo, como aquelas cartas têm custo bem reduzido. Se for um deck em que crias bué de tokens, podes estar constantemente a fazer isto, não? É fixe serem criaturas de custo 1, máximo 2. Pronto, é isso.
In this set, but there are a couple web slinging cards of other colors of higher rarities. The simplest way to have a creature you can bounce is by attacking with one and then web slinging in your second main phase. But you can also tap creatures to abilities such as mana abilities or vehicles crew costs.
Percebo isto.
Mayhem. The other new mechanic in Spider-Man is Mayhem. the mechanic affiliated primarily with the red-black archetype of the set. Mayhem is an alternate casting cost that allows you to cast a spell with Mayhem from your graveyard if you discarded it this turn. Mayhem appears only on cards with the Grixis color shard of blue, black, and red. Discarding a card is a common cost or drawback associated with powerful effects in Magic as a means of balancing the strength of those effects. Mayhem allows you to eliminate that drawback, because when you cast a card for its Mayhem cost, it's like you didn't have to discard a card to the prior effect. In other words, you can view every card you cast for its Mayhem cost as the card advantage equivalent of drawing a card. Keep in mind that while you must cast the Mayhem card on the turn you discarded it, you don't have to do so right away. You can play a land to help you cast it, for instance.
Também uma das mecânicas que pode resultar bem com a cena do web slinging é ter aqueles enchantments que dão haste. Ou merdas que dão haste, tipo a Anger, por exemplo. A Anger é uma carta que se estiver no graveyard dá-te haste a todas as criaturas. Ou seja, tiras, voltas a meter e ele tem haste. Constante. Ou seja, nem é chato, estás sempre a... Pronto, tens de pagar é o custo. É isso aí que depois pode ser chato. Por isso é que eu digo que sacrificar tokens até é melhor.
Or go to combat to see if anything that happens during combat changes your plans for the turn. Modified. During combat changes your plans for the turn.
You may cast this card from your graveyard from when if you discard it this turn.
To see if anything away. You must cast the Mayhem card on the turn you discarded it. You don't have to do so right away. You can play a land to help you cast it, for instance, or go to combat to see if anything that happens during combat changes your plans for the turn. Modified. Modified is a returning mechanic in Spider-Man, first introduced in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. A modified creature is any creature that is enchanted, equipped, or has any kind of counter on it. Modifications can happen in all colors, but modified benefits appear only on white cards in Spider-Man. Connive. Connive is the other returning mechanic in Spider-Man, first seen in Streets of New Capenna. To connive, draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a non-land card to connive, put a +1/+1 counter on the conniving creature. Connive appears only on cards within the Dimir color pair. Connive is an excellent bridge mechanic in Spider-Man Limited, as it provides both a discard outlet for any Mayhem cards in your deck, as well as provides you with +1/+1 counters for any of your modified synergies, all while providing valuable card selection. Please note that even though you only get a +1/+1 counter if you discarded a non-land card, that does not mean you should always discard a non-land card over a land card when you connive. It depends on the board's state and how valuable the +1/+1 counter is versus how good the card you would be discarding is.
Certo. E pequenas chances de nana, sobretudo com maravilha. Vais só sobre os aqui no YouTube. É pá, Martinho, não sei, bro. Tenho aqui 2 tópicos grandes em mãos.
The best limited decks are more than the sum of their parts. The cards in Spider-Man were designed to fit into 5 archetypes, each consisting of a 2-color pair. Understanding what each of these archetypes are and how to build with them in mind will put you in a better position to succeed at your pre-release event.
Lá vem o gajo que grita,
centers around the modified...
o velho que grita contra o vento. Ei, o Magic era tão melhor quando era só Magic. Isto os Universes Beyond é lixo.
Ability keyword. Buff your creatures with auras, equipment, and +1/+1 counters, and then reap the rewards provided by your modified matters cards. There are 2 main rules of thumb to keep in mind when playing a modified deck. The first is that it's generally a good idea to spread your modifications around the field, rather than piling them all up on a single creature. That way your opponents will have a harder time deciding where to point their removal spells.
Isto funcionava bem com aquela merda do Final Fantasy de mover os counters de um lado para o outro. Eu acho que é o deck... Qual é que é o deck que faz isso, mano? É o do Clive? Não, é o do Tidus. É o deck do Tidus que faz isso. Acho que é, não é? O que move counters de um lado para o outro.
The second is that all other things being equal, evasive creatures are the best ones to modify. A 2-power flying creature is generally more useful than a 3-power ground creature. Wraith, Vicious Vigilante, is the absolute best candidate to hold +1/+1 counters in the blue-white deck for her evasion and double-striking capabilities. The blue-black archetype in Spider-Man Limited is a villainous connive deck. These decks consist of card selection.
Porque senão também levava, André, senão também levava um rei descomunal, vou-te já dizer, bro. falar mal de Final Fantasy é uma coisa que não se pode fazer.
Efficient interaction, and iconic villains.
Não,
Your
sei,
goal
essas
should be to
cartas
play a
são
long, grindy game, filtering through your deck to find the right cards for the right moments, all while you chip in with your villains
Ninguém
for
chupar aqui,
damage.
estás bem?
Mayhem cards are extremely
Chupa.
good with Connive. You should be sure to include any of the Mayhem cards in blue and black that you open in your pool, and you may want to splash
Epá,
any
é
of the
assim.
powerful Mayhem cards.
Entre falar mal de Spider-Man e falar mal de Final Fantasy, honestamente preferia falar mal de Spider-Man em termos da reação da fanbase. Tipo, a fanbase de Final Fantasy é... Mano, meu Deus, basta só ver o pessoal que gosta de Final Fantasy XIV.
In red that you open.
Não, este
Take
set
note
não
of
tem
any
cartas
ominous
assim nada por aí,
asylums in
Alan.
your pool. The more of these you open, the easier it will be to splash
Estas cartas
those
são
good
todas
red cards. Remember
bem
that you
meh.
can run the Scarlet Spider Kane in your blue-black Connive deck without needing to play a single red land, because you can pay for his mayhem cost with a single black mana. The red-black deck is, of course, a Mayhem deck in Spider-Man Limited. The goal here is to pair discard outlets with Mayhem cards to outvalue your opponents. The trick to piloting this deck is lining up your discard outlets with Mayhem cards that are castable the turn you discard a card. Remember that you don't have to cast Mayhem cards for their Mayhem costs. It's merely an option available to you. Pumpkin Bombardment is one of the most important commons for the red-black deck, as it's a one-mana way to discard your Mayhem cards while clearing an opponent's creature. The fallback case of paying 2 extra mana instead of discarding a card is also a perfectly acceptable rate. There is tons of removal in red and black colors, which is awesome, but that does mean you'll want to be sure you don't run out of cards after trading 1-for-1 all game.
Mas é que depois parece que não há cartas boas também disto tudo.
Research is a great card advantage card to pair with all your removal spells. Romantic Rendezvous is as well, especially because it's just a 2-mana draw 2 when you're empty-handed. The red-green deck is all about getting big beaters into play early. Mana dorks and other forms of ramp are invaluable in this deck, as one of the best cards in the archetype is the 7-mana Rhino, Barreling Brute, which hits hard and keeps your hand stocked.
Esta carta às tantas é boa naquele deck de ramp de dinossauros.
Good cards to cast. Early plays are vital in this deck, as you don't want to fall behind.
Quanto é que o Rhino tem? 6-7? Foda-se, mas também olha o custo desta merda. Whenever Rhino attacks, if you've cast a spell with mana from this turn, draw a card. Ok. Esta carta não é má. Também não é espetacular, mas não é má.
Stocked with good cards to cast. Early plays are vital in this deck, as you don't want to fall behind to earlier.
Não é Avatar, Ior. Próximo é Avatar de Lester Bender.
Spider Manifestation,
é quase o Inks.
Lizards, Guy in the Chair, and superior foes of Spider-Man are some of your best early game creatures. And don't forget that including cheap removal like Shock and Wisecrack, as they're incredibly important as well. Remember that when you cast a bigger spell for its cheaper mayhem or web-slinging cost, such as Raging Goblinoids or Spider-Man Brooklyn Visionary,
quais é que são as míticas
trigger
deste
when you
set,
cast 4 mana value spells will still...
Mano, eu já disse, o André agora está cá, mas eu vou dizer isto outra vez, que é o melhor set de Universes Beyond que podiam fazer era Elden Ring. Pá, não era tão... não destoava assim tanto da cena de In-Universe de Magic the Gathering e pá, as cartas encaixavam tão bem, tipo, bué da bem, pá, a temática de Elden Ring encaixava bué da bem, tipo, nisto, bué da bem. Encontrei uma carta Pokémon de Shadow Lugia e eu ignorei. O meu filho pegou e quando cheguei a casa vi que era das melhores cartas. Pá, Gerson, nem faço ideia, bro. Eu não jogo Pokémon, mas pá, olha, ainda bem.
Trigger, even though you paid less than 4
Fica,
mana.
Elden Ring acho que entrava bué da bem na temática de Magic.
The green-white deck in Spider-Man is the web-slinging.
É pá, ainda ajudava a contar certas histórias de Elden Ring. E vou-te dizer mais. Eu já estava... Sabem como é que me lembrei desta merda? Porque eu estou a fazer um deck de dragões e estava a pensar, foda-se, quem me dera que houvesse Secret Lairs dos dragões de Elden Ring para eu pôr aqui. Tipo o Dragon Lord Plácido Sax, o outro, aquele gajo, o Bane. Sabem, o Bane, o Bale, acho que é Bale da Black Dread, ou lá como é que o gajo se chama, aquele do Shadow of the Earth Tree. Eia, bem, puto, essas cartas eram bangers absolutos, mano. Pá, era espetacular. Portanto, pá, acho mesmo genuinamente que eles deviam considerar isso, pá. Dark Souls, Demon Souls. Epá, ou qualquer temática do Souls, ou Dormin. Podem fazer todas, bro. Eu acho que imagina, se fossem todas em conjunto ao mesmo tempo, tipo Souls da... Eu acho que aí, tipo, mas eu acho que isso era muito confuso. Estás a ver? Acho que deviam fazer primeiro MTG From Software. Sim, era giro, só que eu acho que deviam fazer às partes. Eu também não ficaria chateado se fizessem, tipo, imagina, Dark Souls e depois eventualmente Elden Ring. Não ficava chateado, acho fixe. Achei que depois era demasiado, mas fixe. Aí a Diablo encaixava bem, mas qualquer um da Blizzard, tipo, Overwatch ia cair muito na cena do Spider-Man. Mas World of Warcraft, absurdo. Diablo também, Diablo bué mesmo. Mas
Pair your
Diablo
web
acho que
slinging
sim, também Diablo
Spider-Man with
Vinhas
good
brancas
bounce
também.
fodder to cast your heroes
Yeah.
for reduced mana cost and retrigger any
Era giro,
effects that you get from entering the battlefield. Evasive creatures are the surest way to web sling via
Pois é isso.
combat
Mas
without having your
pois.
creature die. City Pigeon and Spider-Girl Legacy Hero
Bro.
both attack in the air and leave behind a token of some kind when they're web slung back to hand.
Okay.
Creatures with enter the battlefield effects such as Gallant Citizen or Daily Bugle Reporters will also make great bounce fodder. On a crowded battlefield, you might struggle to keep your potential bounce fodder alive through combat, and therefore it is critical to try and include some means of tapping your creatures outside of combat. Mana dorks such as Guy in the Chair or even the Spider Manifestation borrowed from the Gruul deck tap themselves down while providing mana for web slinging. Supportive Parents turns all your creatures into half-mana dorks, and vehicles like Subway Train or Spider-Mobile can be crewed by a creature you intend to bounce before you cast your web-slinging card.
Sad.
Now, I touched on this earlier in the video, but I wanted to reiterate something about the hybrid mana symbols in this set. Because hybrid mana can be paid for with either color that appears within the symbol, you can run hybrid cards in 2-color decks that are adjacent to the color identity of the hybrid card.
Yeah.
In other words, you can run Skyward Spider in a green-white deck without
verdade.
needing to play any islands.
Yeah,
You'll just
yeah.
need to treat its casting cost as if it were
White,
white-white instead of hybrid white-blue,
Yeah,
hybrid
yeah.
white-blue.
Yeah,
Likewise, Pumpkin Bombardment can be played in either a red
Mono
or a
bro-
black deck,
yeah,
not just a deck that is both red and black.
Yeah.
The 5 color pairs I just went over are what's known as ally color pairs, but while those are the supposed archetypes in Spider-Man Limited, you are not required to build a deck that fits into an ally color pair at your pre-release. For instance, you could open enough powerful white and black cards that you decide to build a deck in that color pair instead. Indeed, all the enemy color gold rares and mythics are powerful cards that are worth running if you can cast them. Now, that being said, I would recommend trying your best to build a deck within the ally color pairs if you are new to either Limited or Magic the Gathering as a whole. You'll have a much easier time building a cohesive deck if you stick to one of these 5 established lanes. If you do open one of the enemy color bombs and you want to play them, I would recommend building a deck within an ally color pair that touches one of the 2 colors on your powerful rare or mythic and simply trying to splash the other color.
Yeah.
Experimente os autobronzeadores graduais da
Mr. Negative como comanda.
Agora
Deixa eu ver,
também
não
para
vi
o
o que a
rosto.
Garda faz, desculpem.
Dias bons. Sabia que o dia é a refeição mais
volto
importante do
atrás
pequeno
para ver.
almoço? Porque até que...
O que é que ele faz? Vigilance Life, Dark Force Inversion. When Mr. Negative enters, you may exchange life totals with target. Uff. Bro, isto é fixe, já, esta carta. Mas o custo disto é enorme, bro. A cena é essa, que o custo disto para Commander é enorme, bro. 7 de mana para meteres uma carta que é um 5-5. Epá, mas sim, mas é bom, é. Como é que é, Swag? Estás bem?
The mana fixing available in your pool will determine how many colors you can
Sim,
play.
sim, isso
Generally speaking, your best limited decks are only 2 colors.
Yeah.
That makes it less likely that you'll lose games due to not having the right colors of mana when you need them. But if you open enough fixing in your pool, you may be able to splash a 3rd color. There are 5 common dual lands in Spider-Man, one associated with each supported color pair. There's also an Evolving Wilds variant at common in Vibrant Cityscape. At uncommon, the Daily Bugle building land can serve as mana fixing if you're in a pinch, but at the cost of tapping down an additional mana source. The 3 rare lands are all great and worth running in their associated colors.
Ok.
Card quality is of the utmost importance in Limited. The difference between a good common and a mediocre common is significant, and the difference between a pool with a couple bombs and a pool without any good rares is night and day. As such, recognizing the best cards in each color will go a long way toward a winning pre-release deck. In this next section, I'll talk about a few of my favorite cards at each rarity for each of the 5 colors in Spider-Man. I'll also briefly touch on multicolor and colorless cards. In my evaluation, white struggles for bombs in Spider-Man Limited. That doesn't mean there aren't a few good cards, such as Spectacular Spider-Man and Friendly Neighborhood, but compared both to other colors in this set, as well as what white generally offers in other sets, I feel the offerings are rather lackluster. Anti-Venom is indeed busted if you can cast him.
Foda-se, 5 de mana branca. E fica. Eu acho que I can target creature card from your heart to develop. Damage would be dealt 20 to prevent that damage and put enemy. Foda-se! Porra!
But requiring a whopping 5 white mana to do so means that I doubt you're going to be able to in anything but the heaviest of white decks.
Bro,
At
what the
lower
fuck?
rarities, however, there are a lot of great cards. Silver Sable, Mercenary Leader, and Spider UK are awesome at uncommon, and they are at their absolute best in blue-white and green-white respectively. At common, Daily Bugle Reporters is one of the best commons in the set, and the Banishing Light variant of Web Up is as great as ever. Blue. Mysterio, Master of Illusion, is a stone-cold bomb in blue, though it's about as much of a removal lightning rod as they make in Magic. I also like the Clone Saga, though not impacting the board until its second chapter is not an ideal use for 4 mana. At uncommon, School Days is a phenomenal card for the blue-black control decks, while Spider Bite is a great card in any blue deck. At common, Mysterio's Phantasm is a fantastic home for your +1/+1 counters in blue-white. Oscorp Research
sim,
Team
é
is a
tudo
great
Spider-Man.
card in
Isto é mesmo
slower
set
decks,
Spider-Man.
as it's a fantastic blocker and a great mana sink in the late game. In contrast to white, black is absolutely chock full of awesome bombs.
Okay.
Agent Venom, Black Cat,
Para não
and
variar.
Villainous Wrath are all absolutely incredible cards. Even the second
O que é
tier
que faz a Black Cat? When Black Cat enters, look at the top 9 cards of target's opponent library, exile 2 of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of the library. You may play the exile cards for as long as they remain exiled. Man of any top can be spent to cast this. Ok, giro, pá, giro. Villainous Wrath, target opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures they control, then destroy all creatures. Foda-se, isto é um board wipe chato, como a merda, bro. Bué chato. Agent Venom, Flash Menace. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life.
of rares like Gwenom Remorseless and the Death of Gwen Stacy are excellent. The only black rare that isn't good is possibly Parker Luck, which is just not a card that really shines in 1v1 Magic. The uncommons in black are all really solid too. Sandman's Quicksand is the worst of them, but even it is better in Spider-Man than cards of its kind are normally in Limited, because of Mayhem mode making it one-sided. And yeah, honestly, I like all of black's commons as well. Scorpion's Sting is probably the best of them, but don't count out Swarm being of bees, an awesome flash flyer in any deck with plenty of self-discard. With so many great cards all up and down the rarity ladder, black is my pick for the best color in the set. Unfortunately, red is a different story. While it has some solid rares, such as Spinneret and Spiderling, as well as Electro Assaulting Battery, the card quality in the upper end of the color's rarity ladder is a real step down from black. At uncommon, however, things start to look a lot better. Superior Foes of Spider-Man is an incredible payoff in the green-red deck, and is even good in red-black thanks to its synergy with high mana value Madness cards. Wisecrack is capable of killing most creatures in this set for just 3 mana, and the extra 2 damage to the face if the creature it targets is attacking is a nice bonus. At common, Shock is always solid as cheap removal, and Electro's Bolt is a great rate if you can consistently cast it for its mayhem cost. And finally, Romantic Rendezvous is a great way to refuel once you're empty-handed.
Yeah.
Green has a couple of fantastic rares. Kraven's Last Hunt is one of the best monocolor rares in the set. Lizard, Connor's Curse, is also a great card, especially if you have something small and evasive to target with its ability, like a City Pigeon. Sandman is a great card too, but the ability is a little worse than it reads because it requires you to have a land in your graveyard to target in order to work. At low rarities, Terrific Team Up is my favorite uncommon as an often cheap
Estamos a ver
spell that triggers your
vídeo,
mana value
Joana.
for matters cards.
Magic.
Spider-Man Brooklyn Visionary is my favorite common, though you need to be able to reliably cast it for its web-slinging cost to make it worthwhile.
Certo.
What about multicolor and colorless cards?
É isso que eu quero
Well,
ver.
I've got great news for lovers of gold cards. Every single multicolor rare and mythic in Spider-Man is pretty solid. If I
Okay.
had to pick a worst of them, it would be Cheering Crowd, as the downside of giving your opponent mana can be costly even as your creature continues to get bigger. Some of
Okay.
my best of the best picks from gold would be Bioganic Carapace, Dr. Octopus Master Planner, and Silk Web Weaver, as all three synergize perfectly with their respective color pairs.
Okay.
I also love all of the three-color flip legends. Peter Parker, Norman Osborn, Eddie Brock.
When Eddie Brock enters, return target creature card with mana value 1 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Transform Eddie Brock, activate only as a sorcery. Deve ser o Venom, não é? Norman also can be blocked whenever on this command play you can knives. Okay. Against one great spider creature token with reach. Okay.
Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales. Of these, Miles Morales is the absolute best, though Norman Osborn and Gwen Stacy aren't far behind. Keep in mind you can run these cards even if you can only cast the front
Bro,
side.
mostra a
But
parte
of
de
course, if
trás.
you have them in your deck, you should try to be able to cast their backside at least some of the time.
Mostra.
In
Fosse ouvir, qual era o deck side das cartas?
contrast, most of the colorless rares
Então-
in Spider-Man really aren't worth running. The
Então não quis
exception to that
mostrar a
rule
parte
is
de trás.
rocket-powered Goblin Glider, which is awesome in both red-black and blue-black.
Porra.
And Iron Spider Stark Upgrade, which is solid in any deck but really shines in blue-white. At low rarities, there's not many colorless cards I'd run. News Helicopter is decent in green-white as an evasive creature that generates value when it enters, and in blue-white as a reasonable wearer of +1/+1 counters. I also love Subway Card in any green deck, especially because of its crew ability's synergy with the web-slinging mechanic.
Essas cartas estão giras. Epá, as cartas até estão bonitas no geral.
And there you have it, everything you need to know before you pop on your favorite outfit, grab your backpack, and head down to succeed at your local pre-release. And speaking of your favorite outfit,
bem.
if you would like to pick up one of these limited edition Tolarian Community
É hoje,
College
malta,
shirts,
se quiserem
or
participar.
hoodies, or even beanies, just go to tcc.store as our limited edition merchandise line is available now. But either way, please remember that pre-release events are truly such a blast, a wonderful and welcoming celebration of Magic the Gathering and this new set. So head on down to your local game store to experience the magic of pre-release all for yourself. And remember, if you are brand new to pre-release or building
fui
a
a
sealed
Final
deck or
Fantasy.
just want to brush up on the basics, check out our new player's guide to Sealed Constructed here.
Eu
This
quero
is
ver
also a great video to recommend to a friend who might be accompanying you to your pre-release event.
Giro, pá. Olha, este vídeo está bom. Gostei deste vídeo do professor. Muito giro. Sim,